And we're live. Welcome to Love and Money Secrets TV. I'm your host, Dame Lillian Walker. And today we are diving deep into chapter 13. Oh my gosh, we only have one more chapter left and then the meditations, and then we will be done with this book as well. And that means that you will have completed another cycle, and now it's a practice of implementing the meditations, paying attention to the signs that are everywhere, and moving forward in your journey as you choose to mold the energy, the particle waves that are in transit, that are in the unseen eye, but we could see them in quantum when we do our meditations. And now, even if it's a particle, we can turn it back into the potential waveform energy state and turn it into the particles that we want instead of the unwanted. Make no mistakes. This is how we are co-creators. We are one with the one. We are the one. The one needs our awareness. And when we take our awareness, use our free will, and take that focused attention, oh my gosh, that is when we begin to manifest according to God's infinite creation, which is magic. You look at the word magic, I attribute each letter to a meaning, which is manifesting according to God's infinite creation. This is how the laws of the universe works. If we are spirits having a physical experience on this earth plane without a body, I would not enjoy the tasty, delicious creaminess of chocolate because I wouldn't have a mouth to interpret the vibrational frequency of chocolate. Without my ears in my body, I would not be able to appreciate the beauty and the sound of the beautiful birds and the beautiful music of Chopin and Tchaikovsky and Wagner, so majestic, and so many, Mozart, Beethoven, of Francesca Bocelli, of Bruno Mars. There's so many great, Taylor Swift. There's so many great musicians. They write such beautiful music. But I need to have ears in order to feel the vibration, to have it flow through my body. Because make no mistakes, when you hear somebody's voice, when you hear music, you feel a vibration that not only comes through your ears, that is interpreted into a sound frequency that your brain can then interpret, but you also feel it in your body. Proof in point, one of the main reasons why people go to concerts is because that feeling frequency is amplified and magnified when you go to a concert, because the vibrational frequency of the sound is not just reverberating through your ears now, you actually feel it through your whole body. And in movie theaters, writers, producers, directors, we know that when you watch a movie, that a very large component of the film has to do with the sound, not just, the clapping, of pitter-pattering feet on the floor, the walking, and so forth, but the music. The music sets the mood. You can take a film and put really funny music to it and make the film appear to be funnier than what it is. You can take that same clip and put ominous, scary music, not change a thing. And just by the type of music that's more ominous and more minor tones, you can create mystery, suspense, and even fear, like impending doom, by the type of music that is placed on that clip. So you have the sense of sight, and you have the sense of sound, and then the sense of feeling in your body, a proprioceptive sensory system that is engaged while you're watching that film. So there's a lot that you and I, that we can do with this, but we haven't been trained. We haven't been taught how to do this. A lot of our natural state of being was conditioned out of us after we arrived after birth. And so now we're getting back to our true north. Okay, so let's jump in, dive in deep. Hopefully we'll have time. There's some exciting shares. There's been so many revelations I've had. I've been having a waterfall, literally like Niagara Falls, of signs, of revelations, of insights. There's been some baggage I didn't realize I was lugging around for a long time. I'm like, oh my gosh, gotta clean this up, gotta get rid of this, feel much lighter, feel much better. But you know what? This is a practice. This is something I'll be doing, not just now because we're reading this book together. I'll be doing this probably till I go to the grave, no doubt about it, because so long as I'm breathing and exhaling, inhaling and exhaling, there's there's always, growth is infinite. There's no lid to growth. So that's the good news. It's that it's infinitely good. I choose to focus on the infinitely good side, not the infinitely bad. So I hope you join me in participating in embracing the unexpected and creating that which is infinitely good. Okay, chapter 13. Open up your books. If you don't have a paperback book, you have your iPad, you have your Kindle, read along. For those of you who want to see the captions on this video, the bottom right-hand corner of your video screen, there's two little white C's. If you just click on that, it'll pop up the closed captioning so that you could actually read it on the screen as well as listen to this video. Okay, chapter 13, create a new mind for your new future. This is week 4. Step 7, creating and rehearsing. So week 4 will be a bit different from previous weeks. So first, as you read and write for step 7, you will receive knowledge about creating and instruction on how to process of using mental rehearsal. Then you'll read the guided mental rehearsal meditation to follow to familiarize you with this new process. Now, next time, it's time to do what you have learned. Every day this week, you will practice the week 4 meditation, which includes steps 1 through 7. And as you listen, you will apply the focused attention and repetition you have employed to create the new you and your new destiny. I'm going to hit the pause button here because as some of you know, some of you may not know or may have forgotten, one of the key principles to learning is repetition. They call it the rote method in the educational system, where by repetition, if you repeat things enough times, it sticks in the memory bank of the person because you have the neurological pathways of the brain as it's being exposed to something new. You have double the amount of circuitry that is being created in order to embrace that, and then it furrows in your brain a deeper groove in your brain because it's something that's been repeated over and over and over again, which creates the rote method, which is it just means that it's something that's being repeated over and over and over again. So that's what you're going to be doing here. You're going to be doing the rote method. So that's why I didn't stop at reading the book once. First with Becoming Supernatural. Next, this book. We'll go on to the third book after we're done with this one, but make no mistakes. Even as we're reading this book, Breaking the Habit of Becoming Yourself, I'm still studying Becoming Supernatural. I still go back. That's a textbook for me. I go back in different parts. I go back to reread. I get new insights. I see it with new eyes. I'm not the person that I was the first time I read the book, or the second time I read the book, or the third time I read the book. This time that I'm reading this book, there are things that I'm catching that I don't remember at all ever having read them. Now, that's just because I've grown since I first read the book the first time. And so as you grow and as your soul and your spirit and your inner being, which is uniquely anchored to this physical body, your emotional body changes too. So as you're able to process and digest things as you're moving forward day by day, you start to have certain insights and you have certain signs that you recognize. There are signs that you ask for. There are signs that you don't necessarily ask for, although in my particular case, I ask signs 100% of the time that I meditate. 100% of the time. For me, it's a missed opportunity if I don't ask for a sign, because I'm not just here for myself or by myself. I'm here with I don't really confine it to being just the people and the beings that are on this planet. For me, I know that we're connected to the all. So it affects It affects the moon, it affects the sun, it affects the stars, it affects the other planets, it affects the other universes that exist. So the all, that's why I said the all instead of galaxy, universe, star system, whatever you want to call it. Those labels really are absolutely irrelevant. It's the existence of all that is. And so, and each one of us has that. Every single one of us, except for a long time, many of us are ignorant of it, which doesn't mean that we're dumb. It just means that we don't know. That's what ignorance is. To be ignorant. Ignorant, the root word of ignorant is gnosis, Gnosis. It's a Greek word, gnosis, which is knowledge. When you're ignorant, that means that you lack knowledge. Doesn't mean that you're dumb, doesn't mean that you're stupid, none of those derogatory terms. It simply means that you have the absence of a certain knowing. But once you know, that's the first step. Once you're aware, you know, you're like, okay, now that I'm aware of this, I can handle this. On that note, I want to share with you, if you don't know who Aaron Dottie is, I would highly encourage you to check out his YouTube channel. Phenomenal content on there. It's very spot on. And one of the things that he was talking about today was about self-love and about how he had been raised in a household of people-pleasing. A lot of us have been raised in homes where we had to people-please because we had a very authoritarian, commandeering parent or parents that, you know, certain things had to be absolutely perfect and then some, to no fault of their own. And so he talked about how he had a very, in his case, it was not only a perfectionistic, high demanding, unreasonable, abusive person, but she was an abusive stepmom who really crossed a lot of boundaries from what I heard from his particular, that particular broadcast. But he talks about why you have the need to, the disease, you know, for the need to please others, and how that manifests from childhood into adult life, what that looks like, what the benefits are, and what the repercussions and consequences are of that. And he talked about his journey and how he was able to overcome that once him and his brother both recognized it's like, oh, wait a minute, this is not an energy, this is not a mindset, a state of being that really embraces the all of who I am. And even his choice of profession straight out of school was reflected in that people pleasing, which I thought was very, very insightful of him, for him to recognize that he picked a profession that would require him to please others and to look for others' approval pretty much 24/7. So if you haven't, I would encourage you to check out, I think that's a video that he recently published, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so let's get back to the book. We're on the next section, which is overview, creating and rehearsing the new you. So before you begin the final series of steps, I want to point out that the preceding steps were all designed to help you break the habit of being yourself so that you could make room for both consciously and energetically for reinventing a new self. Up until this point, you've worked at pruning away old synaptic connections. Now it's time to sprout new ones, so that the new mind you create will become the platform of who you will be in the future. Your previous efforts have facilitated unlearning some things about your old self. Oh yeah, I would have to confess, I've learned some things about my old self, and I was unaware. Like I said, this weekend I became acutely aware of a few things, a few traits, a few emotions that I thought they were a here or there thing. And I found one of them was like a big 50-pound bag that I'd been carrying around since I was 5. Crazy, completely unaware. I thought it was like a one-off thing. Oh no, make no mistakes, it wasn't. And I did a video about it, so you'll watch that separate from this book series. Moving on here. So you've weeded out, as you should. Once you're aware of it, you have to do a process to weed it out, and you use meditation to do that. So you've weeded out many aspects of the old you. You've become familiar with your unconscious states of mind that represent how you thought, behaved, and felt. Through the practice of meditation, you've consciously observed routine, habitual ways your brain fired within the box of your former self and personality. So the skill of reflection has allowed you to separate your free-willed consciousness from the automatic programs that cause your brain to fire in the exact same sequence, patterns, and combinations. So you've examined how your brain has probably been working for years now. And since the working definition of mind is the brain in action, you've objectively looked at your limited mind. So before we go on here, we really I have to impress upon you, not impress you, but impress upon you how forged our brains are in that which is so familiar. Our brain does everything it can to stick with the familiar rather than to be open and receptive to the unexpected, to the new, and to forge a new pathway. Because it wants to go back to, I told you, when you have something brand new, you have, mind you, double the number of neurons. You're actually making yourself more intelligent. You're increasing your IQ as you're reading and listening and applying this information. Make no mistakes. You're actually making yourself smarter. You're actually increasing your IQ, your intellectual quotient, as we study this. When your brain hears this new information, it's like, oh, we can't just use the 1,300 neurological synapses of the brain. We need to up our game because this is unfamiliar territory. We've never heard this type of stuff before. So boom, it fires. Instead of 1,300, it has 2,600. That's right. It doubles the number of neural synapses to create neural networks in the brain. So you have twice the amount of neural synapses. You have twice the amount of light, twice the amount of energy, twice the amount of electricity wiring and firing in your brain when you're listening to something new for the first time. All that being said, those 2,600 neurons and neural pathways of the brain that are being forged, they're lightly formed on the brain because it's just the first interaction. The 1,300 on this side that are firing and wiring for whatever repetitive action that you do, like let's say brushing your teeth every day, those grooves are deep, very deep in the brain. There are shortcuts in your body and in your brain to get to that information so that it takes very little energy. That's why you only need 1,300 neural synapses, because you have algorithms that are written in your DNA code to shortcut and get to that information instantly. It's like microseconds. Something that's just being learned, you need 2,600 because you don't have a deep groove in your brain. That information hasn't been securely lodged in yet. So it's still literally more superficial. So it takes more energy. No different than your computer. The first time you go to a website, it takes more CPU resources for your computer to get to that website. And then after you've been there once, it catches it. It stores in the cookies, it catches the information and it keeps it there. Then when that happens, the next time you go there, an algorithm is written. Your computer automatically does this. It writes an algorithm to shortcut to the catch. So it actually gets a phantom copy of where you actually went, believe it or not, just to get you there quicker. And it has enough of the contents. And the more times you go, the more of that contents, the algorithm gets shorter and shorter and shorter, creating more and more shortcuts, and more of a hologram is saved within your computer to get to that website. And that's why now you go to a certain website and it's instant, as opposed to another. Sometimes you see the bar across your computer. It's like, okay, it's taking a little while for it to get there. It's the exact same thing. The computers were patterned after our brains. Make no mistakes. Okay, moving on. Creating the new you. I'm trying to think, did I finish expressing what I wanted to say about that which is familiar? We'll probably revisit that again. Okay, it's okay if you're laughing at me. I'm laughing at me too. So now that you are beginning to lose, your mind, can you imagine it? Hey mom, what'd you do today? Oh, I lost my mind. You did what? Yeah, I decided to lose my mind. You're doing it on purpose. It's not like you lost your mind out of control. No, you're losing your old familiar, not so useful mind, and you're replacing it with your genius mind. Really, that's, I don't know of anybody who calls it that, but I'm going to call it that, because you're going to replace it with your genius mind. And the more and more you do it, the more and more genius you become, because the genie in us is going to come out, which is the us that creates on purpose, not by default or by accident or by something else's programming. I hope this all is making sense. And I'm playing with words. I like to wordsmith and use words to make you aware of, really, there's the clue, because the clues are everywhere in these words. Okay? So now that you are beginning to lose your mind, it's time to create a new one. So let's begin to plant a new you. Your daily meditations, contemplations, and rehearsals will be like tending to a garden to yield a greater expression of you. Learning new information and reading about great people in history who represent your new ideal is like sowing seeds. The more creative you are in reinventing a new identity, the more diverse the fruits you will experience in your future. Your firm intention and conscious attention will be like water and sunlight. I'm going to read that again because you could easily miss that, gloss over it, and that concept could give you a haircut, and you're like, what concept? What haircut? You could be oblivious to what was just said. That's why we're here, my friends and gems. We're here tonight so that you pay close attention and you remember this key information. Your firm attention will be like water and sunlight for your dreams in your garden. So whatever the mind of man can conceive, it can achieve, because with your focused awareness, you have your awareness, your consciousness, and now you're going to use your free will to focus and concentrate on it. You see it in your 5D mind, in the black, in the void, in space, as you focus on it, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is such a fun concoction, a fun mind movie that you're creating in your mind, as you continue to focus and just feel the elevated emotions of joy, of love, of gratitude and appreciation, because gratitude and appreciation, repeat after me, are the ultimate state of receivership. That's Dr. Joe's literal quote. Gratitude and appreciation are the ultimate state of receivership. That is the bow, the last thing that you put on the present. Bow, tie it a knot, and then you let go. So as you emotionally rejoice in your new future before it is made manifest, you cast a safety net and fence, protecting your vulnerable potential destiny from pests and difficult climatic conditions, because your elevated energy shields your creation. Okay, let's go back to the word manifest. Believe it or not, there are clues, like I said, my friends and gems, everywhere. The word manifest. Mani as in manual, hands-on. Fest as in festival, festivities. You are manually creating something that creates an opportunity for festive occasion. It's a festivity. That's manifest. And that's what you're doing when you do this in 5D. That's how you bring things out. That's how everybody's been doing this already by default without consciously knowing. Now you're actually aware of the blueprint, what the formula is. It's like, oh my gosh. When my mother brought me home from the hospital, this is the manual that they should have sent home with the baby, to be aware of what she has been doing all along, and now to have instructions so she could actually articulate and explain it to me as a child growing up. She didn't know. Her father didn't know any better either. Most parents have not known. The truth of the reality is every single person is born in a completely pure state of love. You know, they're a baby. A baby comes from an environment when it was in the womb where everything was provided for. and it was loved unconditionally while in its mother's womb. The moment it comes out, that baby is completely provided for again by its mother, its father. All its needs are taken care of. They don't have to work or do anything to earn that love. They know that they're unconditional love. They know that everything is provided for. If you take a baby and you put them in a basket or you put them in a closet, the baby's going to cry and scream because it doesn't like to be in the dark. It doesn't want to be away from everybody. It wants attention. A natural state for all babies is they want, they crave, they require, they demand attention. That's why they don't just kind of whimper a little bit when they're soiled, they're hungry, and if they need to eat, pee, poop, cry, or get sleepy. Any one of those, because those are the 5 things that a baby does. It's the only thing a newborn does: pee, poop, eat, cry, or sleep. Everything else they have to learn. So if they have any issue with any one of those 5 things, they're going to cry. And guess what? Then mom comes, cleans up the pee, cleans up the poop, gives them something to eat, feeds them, puts them to sleep, etc. Sometimes it's a matter of just literally gazing in a baby's eyes will put a huge smile on a baby's face. Every parent, I remember when my son was born, the first time that he smiled, and it was just making eye contact. He couldn't even, babies don't see 20/20 with clear vision. Things are fuzzy, but it doesn't matter. The human brain is wired. A lot of people don't know this. One of the things I learned when I was pre-med was that the human brain is actually wired to look for big faces. Yes, I said big faces. Do you know why Disney characters have such huge heads and little bodies? Most of you probably don't know this, but most Disney characters are patterned after babies because babies have big heads and little bodies. To make them more endearing, more acceptable, Disney patterned all of their characters with the baby prototype, if you will, in mind, knowing that psychologically human beings are wired to look for faces. It's just a natural thing. Somebody who doesn't want to look at faces, there's some sort of disorder there. That is not a normal state of being, because people want to look at other people's faces. Even animals want to look at your face and other creatures' faces. It's part of how we are wired as beings. I hope this is making sense and kind of cementing things at a deeper level so that you remember this stuff. Okay, so moving on here, your firm intention and conscious attention will be like water and sunlight for your dreams in your garden. That's the 3rd time you've heard that tonight. As you emotionally rejoice in your new future before it is made manifest, you cast a safety net and fence protecting your vulnerable potential destiny from pests and difficult climatic conditions, because your elevated energy shields your creation. And by falling in love with the vision of who you are becoming, we're all becoming all the time. You just have to choose, or you go by default. So you are nurturing the potential of plants and fruit with a miracle fertilizer. Love is a higher frequency emotion than those survival emotions that allowed the weeds and pests to come in the first place. To eliminate the old and make way for the new is the process of transformation. So rehearsing the new you. Next time, it's time to practice creating a new mind over and over again until it becomes familiar to you. Okay, so I got to stop right here because we're talking about that which is familiar. So if what's familiar to you is a state of disease, a state of worry, doubt that whatever's going to work, worried that, oh my gosh, what am I doing wrong? Or worried that your disease is going to get worse, or that your depression is going to go deeper, or that you'll never get away of your depression, or that your addiction to whatever it is that you have an addiction to, including an addiction to your current state of being, who you have been, any of those things, those are the insects and pests and the things that are stealing energy away from you. So it's just a matter of knowing it's time to let that go. And know that your body, the quicker you embrace the concept that your conscious awareness, the organ of the brain that's inside this brain bucket, and your body are three separate entities. Your conscious awareness is one thing. It is always in a state of pure love. Your brain is the organ that interprets the thoughts, feelings, and emotions that are stored in the physical body. And you have a feedback loop of thoughts that create emotional responses to the body. And there are emotional responses that are lodged into your body because your body has cell memory that creates certain thoughts in your head. So you could have energy vibrations that are memorized in your body that are activated by fear, for example, that will create fearful thoughts, which will create more of those fearful energetic responses in your body. Sometimes so much so that some people suffer from extreme anxiety, and some people even suffer panic attacks to the point where they think that they're actually having a heart attack. That's how powerful your mind, your brain, and your body are. And once you realize, oh, wait a minute, I can control my ego. That's my ego that's putting that fear thought there. No, we're not going to do that anymore. Ego, shut up. Brain, do as I say. You got to tell this body, no, we're not going to waste all that energy. That's exhausting. When your body is seizing you, because that's what it's doing, it's seizing and abusing you. Instead of you saying, no, we're going to be in a state of calm, we're going to be in a state of love, and we're going to focus our attention on creating the fun, joyful, awesome things that I want for my life, not all this crap over here. Because that's a waste. It's a waste of your life, a waste of your energy, and it's abusing. It's not a loving thing to do to your body. So now you're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea this is how this worked. So this is how it works. So then it just takes practice. And no need to beat up yourself. Oh, what am I doing wrong? This didn't work out right this time, or I'm not seeing results fast enough. It's all your ego trying to beat you up because it can, and it still hasn't been tamed yet. So all you have to do is say, no, you chatterbox ego, nah, you are not my amigo. You're my enemigo. Shut up. I don't need you anymore. I said, shut up. Do as I say. You're in timeout. Thank you for shedding the light. Now I see the stark contrast between you and my loving thoughts that know that it is, that I am love. Brain, do as I say. We are resetting my autonomic nervous system. We're going to upregulate all the genes to optimize my body in any way, shape, or form. I don't care what order you start making me healthier and wealthier in my entirety, in all areas of my life. Even though I'd been hit by a bus when I went to the monastery in Cancun, believe it or not, even though I had pain in my neck, I had pain in my back, I had, the after effects of a traumatic brain injury, I did not come with a laundry list saying, I'm going to heal this, and that. No, I really came with an open heart. And I was there a week before. I knew that I had to mentally, spiritually, psychologically, and emotionally prepare myself to be in a pure state when I got to the monastery and be well rested and just continue to immerse myself in the meditations and these studies. I showed up and I just said, okay, divine, whatever it is that you want to heal first, in whatever order, I am open. And all I ask is that you not just do that, but that you use me to help heal many others while I'm here, because I'm not just here for myself. And that came to pass. Okay, moving on. And now we're here tonight, you and me. I could think of no other place I'd rather be. I absolutely love doing this. I think this is so amazing. And let's just keep reading in the book, shall we? So as you know, the more you fire circuits together, the more you wire them into lasting relationships. so that those things now become familiar. Sometimes it's as easy as you telling your brain, okay, I'm going to start these meditations. And some of you are probably thinking, you're going to think I'm psychic because you're thinking, these are long ass meditations, an hour and 19 minutes, an hour and 29 minutes long. Who the heck does that? You know what? That's your ego. In case you didn't know it, that's your ego saying that. But the reality of it is, maybe they are, maybe they are. You know what? To a lot of us who do them all the time, they're no longer long meditations because we're used to them. But time doesn't really exist anyhow. And it is regenerative, recuperative, restorative time. You're not taking time away from your sleeping when you do these meditations. You're actually resetting, rewiring, and you're regenerating your body when you do this, which is why in time you're going to need less sleep, because it gives you so much when you are in this meditative state where your brain goes into from alpha to beta to theta to gamma, and in some cases, delta and high gamma. Okay? You can tell yourself, doing these meditations, doing this practice, getting into theta state, it doesn't have to take you months or years to get into theta state. No, you can right away get into theta state. In fact, I think I've shared this with you guys before. When you do meditations, don't just close your eyes. Look up with your eyes open. Look up into where your eyebrows are, and then close your eyes. Keep your eyes looking up at your brows with your lids down. You're going to notice that your eyelids flutter, and that's just letting you know that you are quick to get into the theta state and that you are going to be more prone to being suggestible by yourself. So because you're the one who's creating whatever it is that you're visualizing as you create in 5D quantum. And so you can command your brain to say, this is my familiar state now. I go into a deep trans-hypnotic meditative state in 5D on my third breath every single time. Every time I do the deep breaths, by the finishing of the third breath, I inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. On the third one, like clockwork, I'm always in a theta state. And then you let it go, you assume, and you know that it is. You move on with your meditation. For a long time, I did 10 breaths. And then I thought, let me shorten it to 3. Why the heck not? Because I'm going to do an hour and a half, 2.5 hour, whatever length of meditation. And then you continue to breathe the Dr. Joe breath that I have linked in each one of these descriptions. Okay, so as you know, the more you fire circuits together, the more you wire them into lasting relationships. And if you fire a series of thoughts related to a particular stream of consciousness, it will be easier to produce that same level of mind the time after that. So therefore, as you repeat the same frame of mind every day by mentally rehearsing a new ideal of self, over time it will become more routine, more familiar, more natural, more automatic, and more subconscious. You will begin to remember you as someone else. In the previous steps, you also unmemorized an emotion that was stored in your body mind. In your body mind. That's what I was talking about before. Your body has a memory. It has cell memory of certain emotions. And that's what he's calling a body mind. So now it's time to recondition your body to a new mind and signal your genes in new ways. So your goal in this final step is to master a new mind in the brain as well as the body. Thus, it becomes so familiar to you that you are able to reproduce that same level of being at will and make it look natural and easy. So it's important that you memorize this new state of mind by thinking in new ways. Equally relevant is to then memorize a new feeling in your body so that nothing in your outer world can move you from it. This is when you are ready to create a new future and then live in it. When you rehearse, you bring the new you out of nothing repeatedly and consistently so that you know how to call it up at will. That's what I was talking about, calling up the theta state at will. You just say, okay, on a count of 3, after my third breath, I will be in theta. And it's trippy because the next thing you know, you'll feel, That's what I feel and sense when I go into theta state. Um, Oftentimes, I'm so focused on moving on with the meditation that I now oftentimes don't, since I know that I get into theta state, I don't even pay attention to that feeling. I'm just kind of moving on and seeing, paying attention to see what else is being revealed, to see if I see any colors. If I sometimes I start to feel a great deal of heat, which you may also, when you start meditating, you may be where you're perfectly comfortable at the beginning of the meditation, and then all of a sudden you start to feel like a fire or a heat, and your head starts to get hot and it starts to radiating. It begins radiating out from your head and like from this area because of your heart. So from your heart to your head, it starts to radiate out. It's almost like you have this heat sphere that's from the inside, like pulsing out. I think that that's also part of the induction, and you're fanning out your electromagnetic field, because as the electrons and the molecules from your electromagnetic frequency, as it starts to speed up, the speed of the electrons increase, the frequency increases, your electromagnetic field and your aura is starting to fan out that heat. The heat is the movement of the electrons is creating more light, creating more heat. And that's why you start to get really hot. Like even as my doing these readings, believe it or not, because I set an intention before we start, before I come on camera, I am definitely far more heated than when I begin. And the same thing's going to happen to you. We saw this a lot, and we see it a lot in the monastery, and that's why sometimes you'll see people, because they can get pretty cold in there. So you'll be wearing jackets and stuff, and then before you know it, people are peeling things off because you get really hot, because that induction field gets really fanned out. For those of us who can sense or see auras, you actually will see how people's glow. Sometimes you'll see that it actually like pulse, like the auras, I call them sometimes glows, they actually like pulse. And I've always wondered, I wonder how you would do that. There's a way of, I'm sure there's a way of doing it scientifically to see if the pulse of the aura is maybe mirroring the pulse of the heart. I should ask Dr. Joe that. I've never thought of asking him that before, but I've noticed that the energy of your electromagnetic field pulses. I've never heard of anybody else talk about the aura pulsing, now that I think about it, but I'm glad it came up tonight. I have to remember to ask Dr. Joe. Okay, so creating, use imagination and invention to bring your new self. I'm so excited you're bringing your new self into existence. So in this step, you'll start by asking yourself some open-ended questions. As you pose questions that cause you to speculate, to think in different ways than you typically think, and to entertain new possibilities, this turns on your frontal lobe right here, the frontal part of your brain. This is where your emotions are, by the way, it's the frontal lobe. That's why if you have frontal lobe damage, which a lot of football players, a lot of athletes, if you have frontal lobe damage, that's why sometimes they have impulse control, where they'll not be able to control their anger and they will break out in a rage. Or they'll go from being a pretty emotional and expressive person to all of a sudden being non-emotive, where they can't, not only can they not express emotion, they have no way of articulating that emotion. And oftentimes it's due to frontal lobe brain damage, believe it or not. Children who, as young ones, repeatedly hit some kids have that as either a bad habit. Sometimes it's a sign of something else that's going on. We're not going to get into, that's a rabbit hole in and of itself. But there are certain kids, especially kids who have been neglected, but it also happens in kids who haven't been neglected, where they just literally bounce their head off of the wall. And every time you bounce your head off the wall, you are causing a certain amount of brain damage. It's no wonder that same child later on will have, impulse control issues, where they can't control their anger. They can't control their impulse to overeat something. I mean, it's like I said, that's a rabbit hole that runs very, very deep. That's not the purpose of this particular broadcast. You can research it, and I'm sure you can find tons of evidence there. In any case, the entire contemplation process is the building method for making a new mind. You are creating the platform of the new self by forcing the brain to fire in novel ways. You're beginning to change your mind. So, opportunity to write. Please take time to write down your answers to the following questions. So then review them, reflect on them, analyze them, and think about all the possibilities your answers raise. Okay, so I really want to impress upon you. You should have, when we started this book, you should have a notebook that you dedicate to this book, to the Becoming Supernatural book, to, I am blanking on the name of the other book that we're going to read right after this. You Are the Placebo. That's the book that we're going to read after this one. And you are going to do the exercises that this particular book is recommending, and you're going to document things in there, and you're going to put the questions, and you're going to answer, and you're going to sit down. Sometimes you are going to sit in the stillness of just you and say, you know what, I'm just going to take 10 minutes, and I'm just going to ponder this question today. I'm going to see what everything that wants to be revealed to me concerning this particular question. So the first question here is questions to turn on your frontal lobe. Make no mistakes. These questions will turn on your frontal lobe. So the question, you write it down. What is the greatest ideal of myself? Imagine that. What is the greatest potential ideal of myself? What is the greatest ideal of myself? Write it down. And whatever you write down, if you can expand it, expand that out. What if I could be even greater than that? Next question. What would it be like to, or what would it be like to be, fill in the blank? So I'll throw a few examples here. What would it be like to be healthy? What would it like to be fit? What would it be like to be in a self-loving place? What would it be like to feel like I'm enough? What would it be like to be happily employed? What would it be like to be stable? What would it be like to be a world traveler? What would it be like to be courageous? What would it be like to be a mother? What would it be like to be a husband? I mean, you could see this, there's no limits to what you could put in there. You know, what would it be like to be a billionaire, a millionaire? What would it be like to be out of debt? What would it be like to be an investor? What would it be like to be happy with an account with over 6 figures and no debt? What would it be like to have three rental properties? Whatever. There's no limit to what you can put here in the answer. Have fun. Have fun with it, explore it, and write it down. You never know. Third question. Who in history do I admire and how did they act? Next question. Who in my life do I know who is or feels, let's say, love? Next one. What would it take to think like, you fill in the blank? Maybe you want to know, what would it be like to think like Dr. Joe? What would it be like to think like Leonardo da Vinci? What would it be like to think like Elon Musk? What would it be like to think like Henry Ford, the car maker? What would it be like to think like Beethoven? I mean, the list goes on and on and on. It's whatever you get to fill in the blank. Okay, the next question, whom do I want to model? So whom do you want to model? Pick out 1, 2, or more people in history. They don't have to be dead. They could be dead, but they don't have to be dead. Somebody that you want to model. You want to model Steve Jobs? What would it be like to model Steve Jobs? How How would I be if I were a genius inventor, a successful musician, a well-recognized architect, a world-known platform speaker trainer to Fortune 500 companies? What would I say to myself if I were this person? How would I talk to others if I were changed? How or whom do I want to remind myself to be? So jot these questions down one by one. Write the question and then all the possibilities. Write the next question and then all the possibilities. Be exhaustive about it. Exhausted to the point where I can't think of anything else. Then you know you've expanded your awareness and your consciousness, and you could always go back to it again. So your personality consists of how you think, act, and feel. So I've grouped some questions to help you determine more specifically how you want your new self to conduct itself. Remember, when you come up with your own answers, then contemplate them. You are installing your new hardware in your brain and signaling your genes to activate in new ways in your body. So you're actually giving your body, the organs inside your body, you're giving them instructions. Feel free to continue to list your answers in your journal if you don't think you can mentally keep track of them. I knew I couldn't mentally keep track of them. There's something, I talk about the 8 neurosomatic sensory systems of the body. In order for you to really embrace and to hone in and to embody this and to really learn it, memorize it, and put it into effect in your life, you have to write it down. There is something that happens to you neurosomatically as you kinesthetically write on a piece of paper. You're engaging multiple senses. As you watch this video, you're seeing it, you're hearing it. As you write in your journal, you're kinesthetically touching the paper. There's a certain neurological pathway of the brain that kicks in when you actually have to write with your pencil that is present as you have to actually, whether you're printing or you're writing cursive, there's different parts of your brain that fire and wire as opposed to typing in your computer. Some of you are going to say, oh, my handwriting is so messy. That's fine. If you feel the need to absolutely positively type it, then type it. But I would encourage you to do the journal by handwriting it, because there is something very magical that happens when you write it as opposed to your typing it. Typing it, it's a different function of the brain. The neurological centers of the brain that fire and wire are a little bit different, and it's more impactful, in fact, to actually write it out. So again, I just want to give you what I know will give you the highest return for your investment of time and energy. So how do I want to think? How would this new person, my ideal, think? What thoughts do I want to put my energy behind? What is my new attitude? What do I believe, or what do I want to believe about me? How do I want to be perceived? What would I say to myself if I was this person? So how do I want to act? That's the next section, you see? How do I want to act? How would this person act, this new you? What would he or she do? How do I see myself? How do I see myself behaving? How would I speak as this new expression of myself? Very interesting. I actually did this aspect of this practice way before I knew Dr. Joe. When I was 14, when I chose to reinvent myself, and as an introverted, very shy 14-year-old, I decided it sucks to be shy. Nobody knew me. I had this incredible superpower. I was invisible in a room of 40 kids. Nobody knew me. And I'd gone to school August, September, October, November, 4 months, and still nobody knew me. I was invisible. Like I said, I had an unwanted superpower. That Friday, I made a decision. You know what? Something just went off in my head, says, sucks to be shy. No, this ain't working for me. I don't like the results that I'm getting. Come Monday, I just chose I'm not going to be shy anymore. I mean, I'm not as outgoing I didn't become as outgoing then as I am now, but I became, relatively speaking, outgoing, where Monday came around. First thing I did, anybody that was within arm's length of me, if it breathed, it passed the mirror test. If you hold a mirror up to somebody who's alive, they'll fog up the mirror. So that was my standard. If you can fog up a mirror, you can pass the mirror test, I'm going to say hi to you. So I smiled, put my hand out, said, hi, my name is Lilian, what's yours? And then I was off to the races. Never looked back then. If you continue to follow what we're doing here on Love and Money Secrets TV, you'll hear about the book that I'm writing on friendship. I talk in greater depth about everything behind that and how that, who would have ever thought that that was going to lead to my success later in life in business. Had I not done that, made that choice at 14, my life would have been completely unrecognizable, but would have been completely different. But I had to make that choice. I had to become the new me. I wasn't thinking of reinventing myself. I wasn't looking to create an alter ego. I just realized that that thought process, that behavioral pattern was not giving me the outcome that I wanted. I did not want to be invisible. That was a very unwanted superpower, being invisible. So I decided, just going to change it like that. What's funny is not only did I change it, but my little brother did the exact same thing 8 years later. When he went to high school, he had, amazingly, the exact same experience where he was invisible. And then years later, we were talking about it and it came out. We're like, oh my gosh, you did that too? Isn't that interesting? So how do I want to feel? We're back to the book. How do I want to feel? How would this new self be? What would I feel? What would my energy be like as this new ideal? When you meditate to create the new you, your job is to reproduce the same level of mind every day, to think and feel differently than you usually do. You should be able to repeat that same frame of mind at will and make it commonplace. Furthermore, you have to allow your body to feel that new feeling until you actually are that new person. In other words, you cannot get up as the same person who sat down. Transformation must occur in the here, like right now, in the here and now. And your energy should be different from when you started. If you get up as the same person, feeling just as you did when you started, nothing has really happened. You are still the same identity. So therefore, if you say to yourself, I didn't feel like it today, that's showing you how addicted you are to the familiar you that you have been. I didn't feel like it today. I'm too tired. I have too much to do. I'm busy. I have a headache. I'm too much like my mother. I can't change. I want to get something to eat. I can start this tomorrow. This doesn't feel good. I should turn on the TV and watch the news. And so on and so on and so on. And if you allow those sub-vocalizations to take the stage of your frontal lobe, because it's commanding all that energy from your frontal lobe, make no mistakes, you will invariably get up as the same familiar old personality. You must use your will, intention, sincerity to go beyond these urges of the body. You must recognize this banter and chatter as a fight by the old self to control that body and mind. You must allow it to rebel, but then bring it back to the present moment, relax it, and then start over again. And over time, it will begin to trust you to be the master again. Because at first, it doesn't trust you at all. It's like at the beginning, it has 100% and you have no votes. Your conscious awareness has 0 votes. I'm gonna say it has 1 vote. And over here, there's 99. And you need to switch it over. So little by little, you move over these 99 votes to 100 votes to where your conscious awareness is, so that you only leave 0 votes over here. And your body and your brain just gives in. It's like, yes, your conscious awareness is the master. We got it. And it doesn't take that long. You would think, oh, it's taken me 35 years. It's taken me 40 years. Maybe you're 20 years old. You're like, it's taken me 20 years. It doesn't matter. 50 years, 60 years, 7 years, 80 years, 90. You could be 90 years old and starting to do this work. It doesn't matter the length of time. I've seen people in their 90s heal themselves of all sorts of pretty severe conditions. So it doesn't matter. You just have to choose to do it. I am going to give you a little tip here, because one of the things that if you have, for example, he says here, therefore, if you say to yourself, like, I don't feel like it today, I'm tired, I have too much to do, oh gosh, I'm so busy, I have a headache. Notice my body posture. Notice my state of being. It's not conducive to encourage willpower. But instead, if you sit up straight, and if you remember that when you have those type of feelings, I have a headache. Notice how you slouch and you become smaller. If you sit up straight instead, if you do the victory pose, put both fists up in the air, and you hold it for 2 minutes. You're like, you know what? I'm gonna stand up. I'm gonna bounce in place, and I'm just gonna hold my fists up in the air as a champion for 2 minutes. Put the timer, play a video for 2 minutes, whatever you have to do, but 2 minutes minimum. By you holding this pose for 2 minutes, you increase your testosterone by 25%. My friends and gems, male or female, makes no difference. If you increase your testosterone by 25%, you automatically increase your willpower and your energy by 25%, because that's one of the results of having a 25% increase in testosterone. So guess what? You're going to feel better. You're going to feel more energized. You're going to feel more motivated. If you, as you're standing up like this, if you know how boxers, how they bounce in place, on the balls of your feet. If you do that at the same time for 2 minutes, now you're also flushing out your lymphatic system. Holy cow, you have no idea how much good you're doing for your body in just 2 minutes in preparation to do your meditation. You're changing your state, you're optimizing your body, and you're actually doing something physiologically to help yourself. And you're going to get in the groove. Now you're going to feel much better. You're going to get more excited. And now you're going to be primed and optimized to start this practice. Isn't that cool? Something so simple that you can do. Victory pose and then just bouncing in place on the balls of your feet. So simple to do. Everybody can do this. You must use your will, intention, and sincerity to go beyond these urges of the body. You must recognize this banter and chatter as a fight by the old self for control. You must allow it to rebel, but then bring it back to the present moment. Relax it, and then start over again. And over time, it will begin to trust you to be the master again. I thought it was important for you guys to hear that a second time, because it's true. Like I said, 1 vote over here, 99 over here, and little by little, you get 2 votes here, 3 votes here, 4 votes. Before you know it, you have 25, 30, 40, 50 votes, and your brain is less resistant. Your body is no longer, seizing you without your conscious awareness. So it's starting to acquiesce to the brain and to you, because it knows that you have reconditioned the body to a new mind. And now you're starting to see more progress and more success. You just have to keep doing it, rehearsing it. So rehearsing, memorizing the new you. So now that you've contemplated your answers, it's time to rehearse them. Review how you will think, act, and feel as your new ideal. Let's be clear here. I don't want you to become too mechanistic or rigid. This is a creative process. So allow yourself to be imaginative, free, and spontaneous. Don't force your answers to be one way or another. Don't try to go through your list in the exact same way during each meditative session. There are many different means to arrive at your end. Just think about the greatest expression of yourself, and then remind yourself how you will act and how you will feel. So what will you say? How will you walk? How will you breathe? How will you feel if you become that person? What will you say to others and to yourself? Your goal is to move into a state of being and become this ideal. So I'm going to hit the pause button here because I think this is so important. When you are in that meditative state and you are thinking, seeing, feeling, and creating that movie of you see yourself through your eyes in whatever the situation is, your body being in whatever state it is that you want it to be in. If you, let's say that you're creating a circumstance, you're actually languaging and speaking and saying certain things, rehearsing it in that realm. You're telling the person, oh my gosh, this is so fantastic, yada, yada, yada. You make up the words that are going to be said. You're imagining what you would tell the person. Oh my gosh, you're so incredible. You did this. You're such a rock star, blah, 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 blah. What's trippy to me, I still am amazed how when it happens in 3D, the other person says whatever it was that you imagined in your mind. They say the exact word for word, sentence, expression, and it does not feel like a deja vu, which is to me mind blowing because you would think it would be a deja vu like experience. It's not. It's like you rewound the video that's in your head of what you created, and it's like, okay, I downloaded it to my computer and now I'm seeing a holographic image of it and I'm the character in this 3D experience, and everything as I saw it there, that 30 seconds, however long it was, 45 seconds, a minute and a half, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, it's like, oh my God, it's identical. And you find yourself saying the exact same words too. It's crazy, but it works. So, for instance, think back to those piano players. For instance, think back to those piano players who mentally rehearsed piano exercises without touching any keys and how they achieved almost the same brain changes as the people who physically played the same scales and chords for the same length of time. The mental players' daily rehearsal changed their brains to look like they had already had the experience of physically executing the activity. Their thoughts became their experience. If you recall the finger exercise experiment involving mental rehearsal, there were also significant physical changes demonstrated in the body without the subjects ever lifting a finger. In this step, your daily rehearsals will change your brain and your body to be ahead of time. Do you hear that? Your brain and your body are going to be ahead before time. That's why it's so important to rehearse, to bring it up again, how you will act as your new self. This is how you biologically change the brain and the body to no longer live in the past, rather to chart a map to the future. If the body and brain are changed, then there is physical evidence that you are changed. Becoming very familiar with the new you. Can we see that on the screen here? Yes, we can. This part of step 7 is about making the leap to get to the unconsciously skilled level of expertise. When you are unconsciously skilled at something, that means you just do it without having to place a great deal of conscious thought or attention on the activity. It's like going from a novice driver to an experienced one. It's like being able to knit without having consciously the will to each of the actions into motion. It's like the old Nike ad slogan, you are just doing it. So if you're getting bored around this point in the exercise, take that as a good sign. It means that your new mode of operation is beginning to become familiar, common, and automatic. You have to get to this juncture in order to hardwire and embody this information into long-term memory. You must make an effort to go beyond your boredom, because each time you engage in your new ideal, you manage to be more of the new you and with less effort. So you engrave your new model of you into a memory system that then becomes more subconscious and natural. So if you keep practicing it, you won't have to think about being it. You will have become it. Bottom line, practice makes perfect. So you are training yourself in this process just like any sport. If you're doing rehearsal correctly, then each time you practice, it should be easier for you to accomplish. Now, why? Because you're primed. You already have those circuits firing in tandem in your brain and it's already warmed up. You also manufactured the right chemistry and it's circulating in your body, selecting a new genetic expression. Your body is naturally in the right state. In addition, you have restrained and quieted down other brain regions, other brain regions connected to the old you. Consequently, the feelings that were associated with the old you are less likely to stimulate your body in the same inherent ways. So bear in mind that most of the mental rehearsal exercises that activate and grow new circuits in the brain involve learning, getting instruction, paying attention, and repeating the skill over and over again. As you know, learning is making new connections, and instruction is teaching the body how to, in order to create a new experience. So, paying attention to what you are doing is absolutely necessary to rewire your brain because it involves your being present to the stimuli, both physical and mental. And last, repetition fires and wires long term relationships between nerve cells. These are the ingredients that it takes to grow new circuits and make a new mind. And this is exactly what you're doing in your meditations. Repetition is what I want to emphasize here. So I want to emphasize here before we get into Kathy's story that as I just really want to give you a visual picture that as you are doing these meditations, as you close your eyes and you are getting into your theta state and you are bringing your conscious awareness to the one, the four, the six energy centers of your body, you're bringing, as you're doing that, you're bringing more energy, more electrons are firing, and more light is being emitted at your first, your fourth, your sixth energy center as you take in your mind's eye and you are now picturing that which you want. Let's say, I don't know, let's say you have a bad liver as an example. If you have a bad liver, now you're going to be visualizing your liver. You're going to visualize that your liver is in a perfect, healthy state. You're going to visualize that your body is optimized, that you're energized, that you're healed, that you have more energy, that you have more stamina, that you have more vigor. You're going to be doing all the different sports and athletic things that you couldn't do before because your liver impeded you before. Things that you couldn't eat, you can now eat because your liver is now able to filter all those toxins and so forth. And so you are thinking of you in the state with a healthy liver and your entire body is healthy and optimized. As you're doing that here, there is a lot of energy, a lot of neural activity, a lot of electrons that are moving inside the brain. You also now have, because of the focused awareness and all, your brain is lighting up like a Christmas tree as you go from the alpha state, beta to alpha to delta to theta. Once you're in that theta state where you are no one, nobody, no thing, nowhere, no place, and no time, and you eventually get into that gamma state, now you're super firing and wiring. You have so much energy that's moving inside your head. Your brain, if you had an EEG hooked up to your head, it would light up like a Christmas tree. Because after all, this is new stuff. Since it's new stuff, you have double the neural circuitry that is lighting up like a Christmas tree. So be mindful of the fact that you have a lot of energy. That's another reason why you get so hot, because as you bring energy from your heart, that energy from your heart is going up to your head. From your heart, it's going from the base energy center, and that energy is constantly going up, being pushed up to the brain. And as you exhale, it's released and up to the brain, and it's released. It's creating that induction field. It's making the speed of the electrons inside your cerebral spinal fluid that bathes your brain with each inhale, and then with exhale, it's released. It's speeding up that flow of electricity, which is the electrons. So make no mistakes, you are actually doing a physical thing that is causing a physical reaction that is creating in the quantum and in the physical field very real results, even though you can't see it because you just have your eyes closed. No different than if you were to hyperventilate on purpose right now, you wouldn't necessarily feel the blood, circulating faster in your veins, but it's circulating faster in your veins when you hyperventilate because you're oxygenating your blood at a much faster rate. You're also changing your heart rate when you hyperventilate. So make no mistakes, there are changes that are taking place in the body that you are completely unaware of. Just because you can't feel your blood circulating faster doesn't mean that it's not circulating faster. It is, in fact, circulating faster. You're just not aware of it. Now, because I mentioned it, now you're aware of it. But a minute ago, before I mentioned it, you weren't aware of it. So be aware of what you're doing. That's part of this work, is for you to become aware of how you have so much of this untapped power that is right there with you all the time, that you can tune in, tap in, and turn on at will. Whose will? Your will. Okay, so now let's dive in deep. Back to the book. We're going to go to Kathy's story. So Kathy's story illustrates every facet of mental rehearsal. A massive stroke had damaged the language center in her brain's left hemisphere, so leaving her unable to talk for months. Doctors told Kathy, a corporate trainer, that she would probably never speak again. Having read my book and completed one of my workshops, Kathy refused to accept this devastating prognosis. Boom. Pause button, big time here. Stop. Brilliant. She knew enough to not let in the death sentence, the voodoo curse that the doctor told her, that she had a devastating prognosis where she would never be able to heal or be cured of this stroke. They're basically telling her that the results of the stroke are a permanent condition, which we know is not true. But in that doctor's limited experience, that was true. So he wasn't lying, but from his very limited medical perspective, it was true. She realized, no, I know I've heard and seen and heard of people who heal in all sorts of miraculous ways. That they can heal from that, then maybe I can heal from this too. So she refused to accept that voodoo curse. And that is the one common denominator amongst all the people that you see that will heal, who have healed, are those who say, no, I don't accept this as true. It might be true for all of the rest of your patients, but I'm not ordinary like all the rest of your patients. There is a way, and I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to find a way, and I'm going to do whatever's required so that I can heal. So instead, based on knowledge she had learned and instruction she had received, and applying focus, attention, and repetition, Kathy mentally rehearsed speaking in front of groups of people every day. She practiced this in her mind. Over a period of several months, she demonstrated physical changes in her brain and body to the extent that she repaired the language center in her brain and completely regained her ability to speak. So today, Kathy once again addresses audiences fluently and flawlessly with no hesitation. So in your own study of this material, you made some important synaptic connections as the precursor for you to have new experiences. Both of these elements of studying information and having experiences evolve your brain. You are also being given the proper instruction in the unlearning and relearning process of change. You understand the importance of focus and attending to both mental and physical activity to mold your brain and change your body to reflect your efforts. And finally, it is your repeated efforts to rehearse your new ideal that will produce the same level of mind and body over and over again. Repetition will seal long-lasting circuits and activate new genes for you to revisit the next day with greater ease. So this step is for you to practice reproducing the same state of being so it gets simpler. The keys for you to focus, the keys for you to focus on are frequency, intensity, and duration. So that is, the more you do it, the easier it gets. The better you focus and concentration are, the easier it is for you to tap into that particular mind the next time. The longer you can linger in the thoughts and emotions of your new ideal without letting your mind wander to extraneous stimuli, the more you will memorize this new state of being. This step is all about getting into becoming your new ideal in your waking day. So, before we go on to the next section, I want to emphasize how you are a new state of being. In a new state of being, that means that your body posture has to be in a different, there's a physiology to an ill body and a physiology to a healthy body. And the quickest way to embody the new you is to have a new state. You know, Tony Robbins talks about how you change your physiology. You stand up straight, you take deep breaths, same thing that Dr. Joe is talking about. I'm going to suggest that you do the victory stance for 2 minutes, as you automatically are embodying a new state of being, because you're going to be victorious in this healing. Yes, man. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Your team, the team of you, you're going to win at this. You're going to be victorious. You're just going to slay the dragon. The old you, kick it to the curb. And you're going to, hopefully, if you can, you're going to bounce on your feet, the balls of your feet, because you're going to give yourself a lymphatic flush. You're going to circulate your blood throughout your system, and you just, for 2 minutes, if you can hold it longer than 2 minutes, fantastic, but 2 minutes will give you a 25% increase in testosterone. So now that you're primed and now you're in a happier, positive, energized state, you're like, okay, yeah, now I'm ready to sit down. You might even want to do this in front of a mirror, where you look at yourself in the mirror. You might want to say, man, you are awesome. I love you. You are so beautiful. You're so handsome. You're so gorgeous. Just talk to yourself, look in your eyes in the mirror. That's what they talk about, doing mirror work. Get comfortable with doing that. That's part of your self-love. Say, yeah, I'm worthy. I've got this. This is how I do it. This is how it's done. Yes, I'm one with the one. I am the one. And I'm doing this. This is cool. And I'm like so excited because I'm about to install a program, and I know that I'm going to run the program. I'm going to download and save that program into the hardware of my brain. I'm going to send that order, and I know that I've got that. Unexpected is coming. I don't know when, I don't know how, but I know that it's in queue. So, and then you anticipate it arriving. Whenever it's going to arrive, you ask for signs of any sort that you know that you know that you know that that's a sign. And if you're not sure, once you get a sign, you can always say, send me another sign. And you don't have to get into deep meditation for that. You could just say it out loud or say it in your mind. It's like, I got this sign. I found this feather. I found this coin. I saw this on the side of a bus, or this song came on. I thought that it might be, but I'm not sure. Would you send me another sign? Then some stranger is sitting next to you. He might ask you, did you see the sign? And of course, he's alluding to another sign, but make no mistake, the universe sat that person next to you to ask you if you saw the sign, to confirm to you that you did just get a sign. And that's another confirmation right there. It's funny how the signs come in all sorts of different ways. So I think I have a few videos on signs. I'm trying to think. I'll see if I can link it to this video on signs, because I did a series when I was living in Italy, in Sicily. I did a series of videos because I had I've been having a crazy amount of signs since 2019. I mean, they upped quite a bit. I've always had signs, but that was just, like I said, that's 2019 was the year of magic, and 2020 started off pretty magical, and it's just getting better as well. And that's not to say that it's without challenges. There have been some of these big challenges are an opportunity to create a wanted from something very blatant that's unwanted. You're like, oh, wow, this really is a bummer. This really sucks. It's like, oh, sometimes you feel like you get kicked in the gut, and you're like, oh, that just feels bad. I'm like, okay, I know how to do this. I need to slow down my heart rate, slow down my breath, slow down my brainwaves. Let me get into theta state. Let me put this into a meditation. In the face of something unwanted, let me put something wanted. This is the unwanted. Okay, I'm going to mold that into what I want, into the wanted. Then you do a meditation. Whatever length of time doesn't matter. You know when it'll be done. You just go for it. It's just like, how long does it take for you to save something on your computer? I don't know. You just go control, you do control C and enter. I've never measured how long it takes to do that. It doesn't matter. I just know that as soon as I hit control or command C, enter, boom, whatever document I have in there, picture, whatever it is, it's saved. Done deal. This is the same exact thing. The moment you doubt it, you know, oh, ego, you showed up again. Thank you, but no thank you. We don't need you anymore. You're no longer the master. I'm the master, you're the servant, and you're going in timeout right now because I don't need you anymore. Thank you for making this so obvious. You're going into timeout. Brain, do as I say. You're off to the races. Okay, becoming a new personality produces a new reality. So your goal in this step is to become a new personality, a new state of being. So if you are a new personality, you are being somebody else, right? Your old personality, based on how you thought, you felt, and acted, has created the reality that you presently are experiencing. So in short, how you are as a personality is how you are in your personal reality. So remember also that your personal reality is made up of how you think, feel, and act. By doing each of those in a new way, you are creating both a new self and a new reality. So your new personality should produce a new reality. So, in other words, when you are being someone else, you naturally will have a different life. So, if you suddenly change your identity, you would be another person. And therefore, you would certainly live as someone else. If the personality called John became the personality known as Steve, we could say that John's life will change because he is no longer being John, but is now thinking, acting, and feeling like Steve. Here's another example. One time while I was lecturing in California, a woman approached me in the front of the audience with her hands on her hips, intensely focused, angrily exclaiming, "How come I'm not living in Santa Fe?" I calmly replied, because the person was just the person, oh, I'm sorry, goofed that up. So I calmly replied, because the person who was just talking to me is the personality who is living in Los Angeles. The personality who would be living and is already in Santa Fe looks nothing like that. Thus, from a quantum perspective, this new personality is the perfect place to create from. The new identity is no longer emotionally anchored to your known situations in your life that keep recycling the same circumstances. Therefore, it is a perfect place from which to envision a new destiny. This is the place you want to be to call out a new life. The reason why your prayers were hardly ever answered in the past is that you were trying to hold a mindful intention while being lost in lower emotions such as guilt, shame, sadness, unworthiness, anger, or fear, connected to the old self. It was those feelings that were governing your thoughts and attitude. The 5% of your mind that is conscious was fighting against the 95% that is subconscious body mind. Thinking one way and feeling another cannot produce anything tangible other than what it already has experienced, the familiar. Energetically, that broadcasts a mixed signal to the invisible web that orchestrates reality. Thus, if you were being guilty because your body memorized the mind of guilt, then you probably received whatever you were being. Situations in your life that evoked more reasons to feel guilty. Your conscious aim could not stand up against your being that memorized emotion. As this new identity, however, You are thinking and feeling differently than the old identity. You are in a state of mind and body that now is sending a perfect signal, free from your past memories. For the first time, the lens of your mind is now lifted above the present landscape to see a new horizon. You are looking to the future, not to the past. You're not focusing, you don't keep doing this number, looking to the past. And a lot of people, myself included, I did that before too, where I was going in my mind's eye and I was looking at the past, even though that's not what I wanted. So when you stop that and say, okay, I'm going to leave the past in the past, that's behind me. I'm in the now. I'm going to project a future memory. I'm going to create a daydream. That memory is going to be a future memory, and I am going to map myself from my now. I'm mapping my way to that new future. So my mind is going to embody that. And now my body just has to catch up with that energy point between this space and time, between the body in this now place and the dimension of time in the future, which doesn't have to be that far away. Your perception, I think, sometimes is, or our perception sometimes is that future needs to be years away. No, it doesn't. It could be months, weeks, hours, even minutes away. I've created and quantum created plenty of things in 15, 20 minutes, which, if you think about it, that's pretty doggone fast. And you can, and the thing is, you can do it too. Everybody can do it. You probably have, if you were to look back, take some examining, but we would probably find things if we sat down and we did a private where you probably manifested things in minutes. You did it unconsciously, not really knowing, using the same processes, but being unaware of your using the processes. So this is just pointing out to you how you can do it on purpose now, with intention, mindfully, for your benefit, to realize and create the outcome that you want. So once you're in a new state of being, now is the time to create a new destiny. So creating, the next chapter says, it's actually not the next chapter, the new section says creating a new destiny. So this part of the step is where you, as this new state of being, this new personality, create a new personal reality. Okay, let's hit the pause button just for a second here, because remember that lady back here who was all hoity-toity and kind of indignant, you know, saying, how come I'm not living in Santa Fe? She doesn't realize it. And Dr. Joy he was too nice. He didn't point it out to her, because only your ego would say, how come I'm not living in, you fill in the blank. How come I don't have my, you know, my Mercedes, my Tesla, my new Civic Honda, my new whatever, my new Rad Rover power bike, my new, you know, my new surfboard, my new whatever, doesn't matter. That's your ego. Your ego is saying, how come I'm not, you know, and it's demanding. Why not? Why not? How come? Why am I being disappointed here? That's ego talk. That's not the loving you. It's not loving to yourself, and it's not loving to others either. It's an equal opportunity bully, an equal opportunity abuser. It'll abuse anybody, anything, everywhere, anytime. That's the ego. So once you recognize, it's like, oh, that's my ego. Yeah, your ego's all huffy puffy. It's like, why hasn't this worked for me yet? Why, it's all indignant and kind of all hot under the collar. So once you realize, oh, yeah, because it doesn't feel good and it's negative. It's limiting. It's got an inherent limiting belief system that it's airing out and sharing it with somebody else. I have failed to create this outward outcome, and I'm trying to make you responsible for it instead of taking responsibility for it myself. I'm trying to project it onto you and make you responsible for it because it's your formula. It's not even their formula. Dr. Joe is languaging. This is part of how things are. This is how the universe works. He's able to language it as a formula to bring your awareness. It's a languaging pattern to give you clarity so that you become aware that this is how it's done. That's all. So creating a new destiny. So this part of the step is where you, as this new state of being, this new personality, create a new personal reality. And the energy that you released from the body earlier is now the raw ingredient to create a new future with. So what do you want? Do you want healing in some area of your body or of your life? Do you want a loving relationship? A more satisfying career? A new car? A paid up mortgage? Do you want the solution to overcoming an obstacle in your life? Is your dream to write a book? To send your kids to college? Or go back to school yourself? To climb a mountain? To learn to fly? Can you imagine learning to fly a plane? Learn to fly a helicopter? Learn to fly learn to kite surf, be a kite surfer, learn to be a windsurfer, learn to be a paddleboarder, learn to be free from an addiction. Can you imagine to break down, break the chains of addiction, free yourself from the bars of addiction that have you incarcerated, limiting you in all sorts of ways that you have no idea until you become free of that addiction. You won't have a clue of how free you possibly can be until you're no longer addicted to whatever that vice is. Gambling, drinking, smoking, prescription drugs, over-the-counter drugs, recreational drugs, whatever the case might be that you're addicted to. In all of these examples, your brain automatically creates an image in your mind of what you want. So from an elevated state of mind and body, in love, joy, self-empowerment, and gratitude, in a greater, more coherent energy, here is where you see those images in your mind of what you want to create in your life as this new personality. Craft the specific future events you want to experience by observing them into physical reality. Let yourself go and begin to free associate without analysis. The pictures you see in your mind are the vibrational blueprints of your new destiny. You, as the quantum observer, are commanding matter to conform to your intentions. Pause here. Remember, I talked about intentions being your inward attention. That's what an intention is. When you have an inward focus, you are giving an inward state of being attention, which is an intention instead of an attention outside. With clarity, you will hold the image of each manifestation in your mind for a few seconds and then let it go into the quantum. You release, surrender, let it go to be executed by the greater mind, infinite source intelligence. Just like the observer in quantum physics who looks for an electron and it collapses from a wave of probabilities into an event called a particle, the physical manifestation of matter, you are doing the same on a much larger scale, but you are using your free energy to collapse the waves of probability into an event called a new experience in your life. Your energy is now entangled with that future reality, and it belongs to you. Thus, you are entangled with it, and it is your destiny. Finally, give up trying to figure out how or when or where or with whom. Leave those details to a mind that knows so much more than you do, and know that your creation will come in a way that you will least expect and that will surprise you and leave no doubt in your mind that it came from a higher order. Trust that the events in your life will be tailored to your conscious intentions. Now you are developing a two-way communication with this invisible consciousness. It shows you that it notices and noticed you, emulating it as a creator. It speaks to you directly. It demonstrates that it is responding to you. How does it do all of this? It creates and organizes unusual events in your life. These signify direct messages from the quantum mind. Now you have a relationship with the supreme, loving consciousness. Make no mistakes. You are entering into this love affair relationship with quantum consciousness. When you are one with the one, you are the one. And now you are co-creating with that infinite source intelligence, but you are aligning yourself to that greater power, to that pure state of love, that love that is within you. And you are accessing it in stillness. And every time the ego comes like a nasty neighbor to barge in on your sacred conversation with your beloved, you're like, nope. I'm not even going to let you knock on the door. Nope. You're not welcome, dear. Ego, you're not my amigo. You're going in timeout. Go away. Go in timeout. Boom. Brain, do as I say. I'm the master. You're the servant. All the energy right here. Let's focus on love. Just love. The elevated emotion of love. You keep on bringing that energy up from the first, second, third to the fourth energy center. And then you're bringing it up all the way up to your pineal gland to the sixth energy center. And you're just cultivating that relationship of love. And oh my gosh, you just love yourself so much. You love the divine so much. And that is where manifesting according to God's infinite creation, that's when that magic begins to happen. And it really is like magic. It truly, honestly is. Okay, so overview, guided mental rehearsal meditation. It's time to reinvent a new you by moving into a new state of being that reflects your new expression of self. It's going to be my little my hand gesture for the new self. After you do so by priming a new mind and body, then you rehearse that state of being again. Your efforts to recreate the familiar state will biologically change your brain and body ahead of the new experience. Then, once you are a new being, in your meditation, a new being is a new personality, and a new personality creates a new personal reality. Here's where you, from an elevated energy, create the specific events in your life as the quantum observer of destiny. Although this guided mental rehearsal meditation has 3 parts, when it is incorporated into your week 4 meditation as the guided meditation in Appendix C, the parts blend seamlessly together. Guided mental rehearsal meditation, creating the new you. So the next step in the book calls for you to now close your eyes. So if you're watching this video right now, you're going to close your eyes. You're going to eliminate the environment and let yourself go by creating how you want to live your life. Now your job is to move into a new state of being. It's time to change your mind and think in new ways. When you do, you will emotionally recondition your body to a new mind by signaling new genes in new ways, and you're going to let the thought become the experience. And you're going to live in that future reality now. So open your heart and give thanks ahead of the actual experience, so much so that you convince your body to believe that future event is unfolding now. Now pick a potential in the quantum field and live it completely. It is time to change your energy from living in the emotions of the past to living in the emotions of a new future. You cannot get up as the same person you were when you sat down. You remind yourself who you will be when you open your eyes. Now plan your actions with regards to how you will be in your new reality, and imagine the new you and how you will speak and what you will say to yourself. Think about what it will feel like to be this ideal. Conceive of yourself as a new person, doing certain things, thinking certain ways, and feeling the emotions of joy, inspiration, love, empowerment, gratitude, and power. So become so attentive to your intention that your thoughts of a new ideal become the experience internally. And as you feel the emotion from that experience, you go from thinking to being. Remember, who and what you really are in your new future. Rehearsing the new you. Now relax for a few seconds, then review. Recreate and rehearse what you just did. Do it over and over again. Let go and see if you can do it repeatedly and consistently. Can you initiate being that new ideal with greater ease than the last time? Can you bring it out of nothing one more time? You should naturally be able to recall who you are becoming so that you know how to call it up at will. Your repeated efforts will mean doing it so many times that you'll just know how to do it. So when you move into this new state of being, memorized the feeling, this is a great place to be, because now you're just basically doing the same thing over and over again. So now instead of creating it from scratch and imagining what it would be like, now you're recalling a future memory, and now you're just savoring that memory. Same words, same thoughts, same feelings. Sometimes you'll add a heightened feeling so that the feeling of love is even greater, the feeling of gratitude and appreciation, maybe even bliss and ecstasy are also thrown in there. Maybe you have a certain amount of exuberance or je ne sais quoi, a kind of just gleefulness. But the overall picture is the same. Maybe it's even brighter in your mind's eye. Maybe it's louder. Maybe your speaking in that framework is maybe even louder, maybe more emotional, maybe more expressive, maybe more jubilant, but it's basically the same story. It's no different than you're recalling a scene from a movie. No different. But it's your movie that you're creating for you deliberately. So, creating your new destiny, and now that it's time to command matter from this elevated state of mind and body, what do you want in your future life? As you unfold the new self, remember to move into that state of mind and body that feels invincible, powerful, absolute, inspired, and overjoyed. Let the pictures come. See them with certainty, with the knowingness that unifies you to those events or things. Bond with your future as if it is yours, without any concern other than expectancy and celebration. Let yourself go and begin to free associate without concern. Become empowered by your new sense of self. With clarity, hold the image of each manifestation in your mind for a few seconds, and then let it go into the quantum to be executed by the greater mind. Then go to the next one. Keep going. This is your new destiny. Allow yourself to experience that future reality in the present moment until you convince your body to emotionally believe that the event is coming to pass now. Open your heart and experience the joy of your new life before it actually manifests. Know that where you place your attention is where you place your energy. The energy that you released from the body earlier has become the raw materials for you to use to create a future. So, in a state of divinity, true greatness and gratitude, create by blessing your life with your own energy, and be the quantum observer of your future. Become entangled to your new reality as you see the images of what you want to experience in the energy of this new personality. Know that those pictures will become the blueprints of your destiny. You are commanding matter to conform to your intentions, inward attention. When you finish, simply let go. Know that your future will unfold in a way that is perfect for you. So now, week 4, guide to meditation. So now that you have read the text and journaled for step 7, you are ready to practice your week 4 meditations every day. Listen to or do from memory the full week 4 meditation. A helpful hint: during the guided meditation, you may find yourself feeling so good that you naturally make statements like these to yourself or out loud. I am wealthy. I am healthy. I am a genius, because you feel like that in a very real way. That's great. It means mind and body are aligned. It's important for you not to analyze what you are dreaming. If you do, you will leave the fertile ground of the alpha wave patterns and return back to beta wave patterns and separate yourself. Eek! Separate yourself from your subconscious mind. Just create a new you without any judgment. Guide to continuing your meditation. So you've just devoted the past several weeks to learning a meditation practice that can become a lifelong means to help you evolve and create the life you choose. So you also used that new skill to start pruning away a particular aspect of the old you and to begin creating a new self and a new destiny. So at this point, many people ask the questions such as these. How can I get, or how can I continue to get better at the steps and skills of meditating? Once I've mastered this process, should I keep doing it the same way indefinitely? How long should I keep working on the same aspect of self that I focused on up to now? How will I know when I'm ready to peel away another layer of the onion? As I keep using this process, how can I decide which part of my old self to change next? Can I use this process to work on more than one aspect of my personality at a time? So make this meditative process your own. So if you continue to do all the steps every day, what used to feel like 7 steps will feel simpler and with more of a flow from step to step. It'll actually start to feel like it's all one. You won't feel that it's 7 steps. You'll feel like it's just one continuum. So the steps kind of fall away and you just kind of naturally, it becomes like automatic. No different than, driving a car becomes automatic once you get used to it. So, like anything you have mastered in your life, you will only get better if you continue to meditate daily. So, as for the guided meditation and induction techniques, you might think of them like training wheels on a bicycle. So, if you're using them helped you while you were learning this process, continue to listen to them for as long as they assist you to move ahead. But once you're so familiar with the process that you've made it your own and you feel that listening to guided instructions is holding you back, then let them go. Keep peeling away at those layers. Making periodic adjustments to your meditations is natural and to be expected because you aren't the same person you were when you began. So if you keep up the daily sessions, your state of being will continue to evolve and thus you will continue to recognize aspects of your old self that you want to change. Only you can determine when and how quickly you are ready to move ahead. Okay, I'm going to hit the pause button here because this is so true. Until you are able to no longer be in a place of denial and you're willing to face up and have the courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is simply feeling the fear and saying, oh, wait a minute, you're in recognition that there's fear. You're hitting the pause button, putting fear to one side, and you're going to go into your heart and say, you know what? I'm going to feel the fear. I'm going to do it anyways. And I'm going to have heart. And I'm going to step into my heart space and I'm going to purge out the fear and I'm going to step into truth and I'm going to see what's the root cause, what's behind this fear, what is it that is making me feel afraid? Or it may not be fear, you may call it a different emotion that's negative, that doesn't feel good. And as you peel back the layers, you might go, oh, wait a minute, the reason why I was so angry at this and I was so triggered by this, I was afraid. I was afraid of losing, or I was afraid at the pain getting worse, or I was afraid of something or someone or some sort of hurt that was maybe being re-injured again. And then as you recognize that, that's the first step to dissolving it. Then you can choose then. It's like, oh wow, I didn't realize that whenever somebody says this or somebody behaves in this way or somebody says these particular words, it triggers me to feel anger. But behind the anger, it's really fear. And because there's a wound that keeps on, it's like, oh, there isn't a scar there. There's a scab, and I've never been able to have the scar, have it heal and become a scar. It's a scab that keeps on getting torn off. And it's like, now you have that open wound again. And you're like, that's really painful. Now that I recognize it and I go, oh my gosh, this is something that went back till I was 19 and in college, or I was 11 and in junior high, or I remember a particular circumstance with my brother or with my mom or with a neighbor kid around the corner from my neighborhood, whatever the issue is. But now you can go, oh, so now you can bring it in meditation and then you can clean it up and you can see yourself free from that. You might want to even look up the neurohealth reset that I have on this YouTube channel of Love and Money Secrets TV. It's just shy of 3 minutes. You can follow that guided meditation that will dissolve it. And if the pain level gets to a 1 and you keep on repeating it until it goes to 0. If you can't get it to become a 0 pain point, then there's something there that your body's going, no, we can't completely get rid of it because there's a lesson to be learned here. And we need to keep the lesson, so we have to keep that pain to keep the lesson. At which point you may need to find somebody that will help you unpack that. If you'd like for me to help you unpack that, I have another process equally painless as this one, as a neurohealth reset, very effective. It's not contingent, doesn't matter whether you believe in this or not. It's a neurosomatic process like the neurohealth reset that basically it relinks, it syncs the left and the right hemispheres of the brain so that they're firing and wiring properly again. And that's why we're able to get pain. Sometimes people have pain levels of 8, 9, or 10 that go from that to down to a 1, or sometimes we're able to knock it out altogether. The first try, sometimes it takes 2 or 3, we get it down to a 0. But in some instances, there's a lesson that needs to be retained. And if so, then I have different processes that I can take you through that will help you finish it off. And they work too. They're all neurosomatic based so that they're not contingent upon a belief system of any sort. Okay, only you can determine when and how quickly you are ready to move ahead. And as I'll talk about in the next chapter, your progress will depend not just on your meditations, but on making change an integral part of your daily life. But in general, working on one particular aspect of yourself in your sessions for 4 to 6 weeks will likely bring enough results that you will feel an inner prompting to begin removing another layer of self. So approximately every month, do some self-reflection. Look to your life for feedback on what you're creating and how you're doing. You might revisit the questions in part 3 and notice any that you would now answer differently, perhaps. Reevaluate how you're feeling, who you've been being in your life, and whether you still have the attitude you were working on. If that attitude feels like it has diminished, have you noticed other unwanted emotions, states of mind, or habits that feel more prominent now? If so, one approach might be to focus on that aspect of your personality and redo the entire process you just completed. Alternatively, you may want to keep working on one area while adding another. Once you've mastered the basic template for how to meditate, you can combine the emotions you're working on in a more unified way, addressing several aspects of yourself at the same time. After a lot of practice, I now work on my whole self at once, taking what I think of as a holistic, nonlinear approach. Of course, elements of the new destiny you want to create will surely change as well. When that new relationship or career change comes into your life, you won't want to stop there. And every so often, you may also opt to vary your meditation just to shake things up a bit. So trust your instincts. Pay attention to your intuition. Pay attention to that intuitive click that you might have inside you. Advance your understanding even more. If you haven't already done so, I invite you to visit my website, www.drjoedispenza.com. Whenever you feel the need for new inspiration, here you will find an array of practical tools and techniques to reprogram your thoughts and remove self-destructive habits to empower you to change from the inside out. Your next steps might be to read my first book and companion to this one, Evolve Your Brain, The Science of Changing Your Mind, to deepen the knowledge that, as you know, is the precursor to this experience. This book will walk you through the structures of your brain, teach you how your thoughts and emotions become hardwired, and give you the understanding to not only change your life, but to change you into the person you've always wanted to be. Attend 1, 2, or 3 of the workshops I personally conduct around the world on breaking the habit of being yourself. Participate in a series of live teleclasses, including question and answer sessions. You can find out about all of these on drjoedispenza.com website. And also if you go to the Facebook, Dr. Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe Dispenza Facebook group. Broaden the foundation of your knowledge through the DVDs and audio CDs described on my website. I wanted to mention here, he talks about the book, the first book he wrote, Evolve Your Brain, the science of changing your mind to deepen your brain, Evolve Your Brain, the science of changing your mind. We'll be reading that book after we read You Are the Placebo, because that's the next book we're reading after this one. Okay. That is the conclusion, my friends and gems, with chapter 13. And there was something I wanted to share. Yeah, let me see if I can find. There was something. Yeah, I will probably show this. I'll get it organized so that it's quick and I can show you more quickly. Yeah, so I can show it more quickly. I'll have it a little bit better organized. But thank you for tuning in, tapping in, turning on today to Love and Money Secrets TV. I wanted to encourage you to put in the comments below. Remember, this is your classroom. It's a global classroom where we can talk, comment, learn from each other, share your experiences with me. If you see whatever you see or sense during your meditations, I would love to hear about them. You know, are you seeing colors? Are you seeing geometrical pattern waveforms that look like they're alive, that they're moving and changing? Do you see, do you have the sense of, do you sense the presence of, I'm going to call them sentient beings? Because that is something that every time I meditate, I do see and I do feel certain beings that are in my presence. And in fact, if you look at the video that I did about my mystical experience on March 22nd of this year, that was a profound mystical experience. And I've had a lot of amazing things that have happened since then. It seems that certain things were not just revealed to me, but they were downloaded into me that day. And one of the cool things that came from that, I'm going to share that in a separate video. I'm not going to say what that is. I'm going to hold back on that and share that in the 14th video. But there are certain things, there were abilities that were revealed to me there, and others that weren't revealed, that were just, I was just told that things that were being imparted upon me and downloaded into me, both in my, not only through that meditation, but through other meditations and just while sleeping. And ways I was given instructions to access certain knowledge from certain sources, which didn't make any sense to me, but now they make sense to me. But at the time, they didn't make sense to me. So what I'm telling you, the only reason why I'm sharing this with you is because the same thing could happen to you. There are things, not everything that is revealed to us in meditation makes sense, because a lot of what is revealed, there's a certain aspect that is part of the familiar past. So your brain has a way of making sense of it. And then there's the unknown that's being revealed to you, where you're like, oh my gosh, this is like amazing. This is like, holy cow. I mean, I would not have an imagination wild enough to create something like this. This is just like, oh, and then you want everybody to see and to feel this. This is so spectacular. And so as information, as knowledge is being brought to your awareness, certain things are told to you, and then there's communication at a different level, which doesn't make sense. It's not a linear communication where one speaks, the other one hears, or a conversation's going. It's, like I said, in that experience, I had like, I don't know how many conversations, like 30 conversations maybe. I didn't count them. There was like 15, 20, 30 conversations going on all at the same time. And the sound was beautiful. I wish there was a way for me to reproduce that sound in this realm, because it was it was basically like an orgasm. I mean, it really was just so glorious because it came through your ears and it felt so incredible, but it affects your body too. So it was like, it really, the closest thing, which is an invented word, an orgasm, an orgasm of the ear. It was really just the thought of it right now. It's like, oh, I wish I could hear it right now. Right now, I just have a memory of it. And I've heard that several times. And each time it's like, you just want to hear more of it. So it's undescribable. But my wish is that you would share with me whatever your experiences are, and don't doubt them. Whatever it is that's revealed, you may think it's like, well, I saw a red arrow and I don't think that means anything. That seems kind of random. None of the things that you are able to see, hear, smell, because I've also smelled smoke, I've smelled all sorts of interesting things as well. I smelled roses when there were no roses in my house as I'm doing a meditation. I've smelled all sorts of different things. So all those things have a meaning, and they're there to give you a very specific information. You may need help with someone either like myself or somebody else who has what would I call it? Kind of like intuitive abilities. I call them intuicognizant abilities. Somebody who is an intuitive, who has those kind of, I hate to use the word psychic, but it's, they have the ability to feel energy and interpret the frequencies from other realms. So if you have somebody that trusted that can help you unpack that, it can go much faster for you, because now you have answers quicker, and then you start to put, you're like, oh, you start to see the patterns and the connections. You're like, oh, I kind of see how this works. And I kind of had this kind of feeling when I'm using a red arrow. I haven't seen a red arrow in any of my, maybe one of you right now watching this, maybe you saw a red arrow either in a dream last night, or maybe as I'm talking, maybe you had an image of a red arrow. I don't know where the red arrow came from, but I'm using that just as an example. And so make no mistakes, that piece of information is trying to tell you something in the plane and space of time of right now. It's significant. So you make a mental note of it, or maybe even write it down, jot it down in your journal, in your composition notebook that you're using to do all of this work. And you start to say, okay, well, I need to know, I don't know what this means. You just say to the great I am, it's like, I don't know what this means, but obviously you gave me this sign, this symbol, this color, this smell, this taste, this sound, this whatever the case might be, this sense, this feeling. Reveal to me what it means. I need more guidance. I need more signs. I need clarification. You can ask for clarification. There's no limit to what you can ask for. So ask. The more, the better. And then take notice. And if you're not sure that something is a sign, you can ask, is this a sign? I need confirmation. And then you'll be given, it's amazing how fast the signs come. So that's it. Another hour has gone by. Today we were on for 2 hours and 8 minutes. And tomorrow we will be on chapter 14, demonstrating and being transparent, living your new reality, will be chapter 14. So thank you for tuning in, tapping, and turning on. And as I always say, hear my bracelet knocking against the desk. So ciao for now.